Well, welcome back to the Results Media Podcast. This is Grayson. We've got Rex over there, and today we are doing another book review. And today's book is Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and this book is awesome. It's really talking about emotional intelligence versus intelligence. So it's IQ versus EQ, and the role that emotional intelligence plays in your life, in business, but also just in general, and how you can be more successful when you are more emotionally intelligent.
Absolutely. So, some of the things that I really loved and I got out of it right away, the IQ versus EQ, is looking at success, income rates, and what the research that they found is that, and the EQ has as much importance, and what they're really suggesting is it has a lot more importance than IQ and how much money you make in your success.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
When you look at the fundamental difference is IQ you're born with, emotional intelligence is something that's developed.
Yeah.
It's not something you're born with.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we create through our habits, and we have the ability, if we're not really emotionally intelligent, we can become emotionally intelligent.
Right.
It's our choice.
Yeah. And it's super interesting to think about because the fact that it does play that large of a role in your career and your business and your life, yet how often did we grow up hearing about IQ and hearing how that's important? But I feel like it wasn't even until the last decade where EQ was even a term and in the paradigm of leadership and business, and it's crazy.
That is a great analysis. When I was a kid, and I'm much older, there was not even relatively. It wasn't even in the speck of an eye of someone. It just did not exist, and it wasn't on the horizon. It just and so it is amazing.
Right.
In the last decade, we pick up on this, and it's incredible. It's incredible difference. It's for me. Is someone that definitely can get to anger quickly. This book was a life changer for me. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how does it affect you at home. It can. Mm-hmm. It can affect you at work. It can affect your coworkers.
It does, everywhere.
It's unbelievable how much it affects you. It can make you a far better salesperson. That's how I got into it, and it really did. It can make you a better husband, a better wife, better family person, better church member, just a better person all around. And it's a choice. It's something that we get to choose and develop. It's not something that we have to be born with. And I can't say that enough. I want everyone to know that this is...
You can learn it. You can learn to be better at it. And so, just in case you don't know, IQ is intelligence quotient. EQ is emotional quotient. So that's just talking about either your intelligence or your emotional intelligence, which is different, but plays a larger role. So the book is pretty short. It's a pretty simple read, but it has, I think, one of the biggest impacts that you can have just on self-improvement. If you learn this and then start to apply it and grow in it, huge results.
Absolutely. When it comes to foundation, I believe that your personality type is very important, but I would almost say that understanding your personality type and understanding your emotional awareness probably are the foundations. Those are the two building bricks that are critical to having success in developing who you are. I really believe that. Mm-hmm. One of the things, and I was just saying this earlier to you before we started, self-awareness is probably the most important thing I learned about the book. And you say that it is a quick read. It is absolutely a quick read, easy to understand. Implementing it is a different story. And that's why I come back to self-awareness. Self-awareness was the most important tool I could have learned from the book. Mm-hmm. And if you don't understand when you're breathing different or your breath changes or
your heart rate
goes up. And if you're not really aware that you're sweating beads and you're doing different items, you can't correct it.
Right.
And so self-awareness to me is the very first step.
Yes.
And probably the most important step. If you can actually become self-aware, your life will change.
Right. And so the book really breaks this down into 4 categories. The first 2 are about yourself, and then the other 2 are about your relationships and people around you. So first is self-awareness. Second is self-management. Third is social awareness. And fourth is relationship management. They kind of go together.
They all go together. Now, for me, I still, and this is my own selfish little side, I come back to self-awareness. Because to me, self-awareness, and once again, the book is easy to read, implementation,
Right.
not so much.
Right.
You've got to practice. And so self-awareness was really critical to me to understand, what to do. And so for me, it's been critical, and I'm becoming much, much more effective at knowing when I'm needing to take a breathing moment and to change my posture, whatever it is that I need at that moment. For me, breathing is usually the one. And one of the things that I've learned, and I used to take big, huge breaths, and I realized, okay, that's not really what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I've become much more effective at breathing and really gotten into it and become very smooth. And when I see any kind of erratic breathing or feel any of it, I have the ability to change it. And then this has come from lots of practice of different breathing. So breathing is one of my probably self-awareness, but it's also my resolution.
Yeah.
And so for me, learning how to breathe smoothly and in rhythmatic. And so in specific rhythms, and as long as I can keep it smooth and in control, and that's what I concentrate on, I can take myself from going from being and seeing anger come to being in any mood that I almost choose just by controlling my breathing.
Yep. Yeah, and these 4 actually build on one another. So self-awareness has to be the first, because if you're not aware of how you function, what your triggers are, what your body does when you're under certain pressures and circumstances, then you can't get to step 2, which is self-management, which is then, like you're saying, learning and then implementing different techniques to help you and learn how you communicate, how you cope with things, all of that.
Absolutely. I took this course, and I am a single dad, and today I have a 10 and a 12-year-old boy. And I will tell you that that's more challenging for me than any other aspect of my life, being a single dad. And the most effective tool that I've ever learned as a parent, and it's through this course that Natured Learning or Natured Heart or Nurtured Heart is the name of it. And they have this thing called Reset. And basically is what it is teaching my child to become self-aware whenever they're breathing or whatever. And a reset is a breathing process that I'm teaching. And so we practice reset. And I'll tell you even something funny about my kids in the reset. So the first part is that I teach them how to breathe smoothly, and we practice this a lot.
Yeah.
And I get them going. Now, the funny part about that I was saying is that I've taught my kids how to use it against me. So when they see me getting mad or anytime they're in trouble, Dad, you need to reset, especially right before punishment comes down.
That's awesome. That's pretty
is
funny. Don't you wish they taught that in school, though, versus like some of the other dumb junk we are forced to learn?
Unbelievable. This reset, and my ex and her boyfriend make fun of me. Like reset's going to stop a child. And it's hilarious when they see it. You can just see, and they don't say nothing. They don't, but you can just see their bewilderment. Just like, what the heck?
It works.
They have no clue what just happened.
Right.
They don't understand how, and it's in a silent, hey, you just need to reset. And all of a sudden, I'm taking them from ready to kill their brother to, okay, and they just do it, and they change then and there. And so it was taught to me in Nurtured Hearts, which was awesome. So what they're trying to do is come up with a way to get it in a kid's mind. And so for me, being a kind of kid at heart in many ways, it really worked for me. And what it is, reset comes from is your computer game. So when you lose and you get all mad at your game, you reset. And you start over.
Yeah.
And that's what they're teaching them is that, you know what, you're getting mad, you're getting frustrated, you could hit a reset button and start over.
Yep.
And come at it in a different mindset.
That's awesome.
And so it's just kind of a way for them to teach it, but it's a quick, and it works.
Right. Awesome.
Social awareness.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's huge. And it does take the first steps, self-awareness. Once again, that was a big one for me. Once I learned the self-awareness, everything else came in very quickly and easily. It's that self-awareness. So then the social awareness was great because once I figured it out on me, I could see it with other people.
Exactly.
And this is the most amazing thing that I think many of us miss is how much impact we have on other people.
Yes.
Not through just our words, but how we act. And so when we see them tense, and if we actually do the breathing treatments ourselves, they see us being very, very calm, and we maintain that, we can actually affect their moods and kind of affect where they're going. It's unbelievable how powerful it is.
Yeah, there's another great book that really deals with emotional intelligence and the brain and all of that. It's called Primal Leadership. And one of the things they talk about is how our emotions are the only open loop system in our body, right? So we've got our circulatory system, we've got our respiratory system. They're all closed loops. They kind of function on their own and they just keep going. But with our emotions, it's open to where we are affected by other people and we have the ability to affect other people's emotions by the way we present ourselves. And so when you are emotionally intelligent and you have that self-awareness and you've kind of learned some techniques for self-management, if say you're a leader in a business, if you know, like, okay, I need to go into this meeting and I'm going to lead it and I need the energy to be high and I need it to be positive, but I'm feeling down today. So you implement some of those self-management techniques and you go in there with your energy high, your emotions positive, you being optimistic, you naturally will affect the emotions of everybody else in that room that you're leading. And so it's pretty crazy when you think about just knowing that that's an open loop, how you can go into different situations and affect them just based on your response.
Absolutely. And when you talk about leadership, to me, it's the absolute responsibility of leadership to have this under their belt, to become a leader.
Definitely.
Because I really believe you lead by example. And I really believe as a leader, you're more in emotional turmoil than anything. You know, as a really effective, good leader, you're going to get into the personal sides of people's lives. You're really going to get into the intimate sides of what drives them. Because as a really good leader, you know that if their personal life is in disarray and they have issues, it will come to work. And it's your job as a good leader is to help them through that, help them get to a good emotional stability side, even in turmoil. And I think that that's what makes this book so amazing for me. I'm a single dad. I walk into turmoil daily in many areas, not just with my kids, but through the school and through my own work. And then I could just go on and on and on. And the one thing that I love about emotional intelligence is that it makes all of my turmoil just another task in the day. And it really helps me maintain a content level throughout the day. And as you were noting, I am one that is in the position where I got to bring high energy to meetings. And my general state is very high energy. And so the expectations of me is always high. And so when turmoil hits me, it's not something I can fake. I have to deal with it. I have to have some sort of mechanisms in place to deal with that turmoil, to be able to turn on the level of intensity that people will expect when I'm given the chance or opportunity to do so.
And one of the things they call it in the book is they say it's the ripple effect, from your emotions. So they use the metaphor or analogy, whatever. The example of when you throw a rock into water, it breaks the surface, but it's not done. Then it ripples out and affects everything surrounding, and it goes a long ways, That affects things far off that you might not think it would touch, but it does.
I've seen many posters of that exact one, and I understood it even as a kid to a certain degree. But what I think this book and any kind of self-development, and whether almost there's any book, just get excited about yourself and get into the self-awareness side. You really grow from it. But that water analogy for me became so powerful once I actually had the tools and the skill set to implement them. all of a sudden that became a totally different meaning.
Right.
Same logic. I understood it even as a kid when I saw it.
Yeah.
But today, the amount of impact I know and the influence it has is what's different.
Right. Well, in my example that I was talking about, that I was still somewhat even talking about self-management, because I was saying if you're going into a meeting and you're feeling a certain way, you can then change that. But the social management is really if you are in a meeting or you're talking to somebody and you can see their emotions and how they are, you can then affect them by counteracting that and changing it, and then actually socially change the situation you're in.
Absolutely. It's incredible how much we can impact people that way.
Yeah. And one of the things the book also talks about is when you have a feeling that you don't like, typically what we'll do, especially if you're not emotionally intelligent, is you'll try to avoid it. You won't think about it. You'll try to do something else to get your mind off it. But to really become emotionally aware and intelligent, you have to dive into that. You have to go deeper into it. You have to self-reflect, self-evaluate. Okay, what am I actually feeling? Am I angry? Am I hurt? Am I afraid? What's causing that? And then you can learn how to change that emotion in the future.
That is such a great point, because that comes right back to why I always go to self-awareness.
Yeah.
Because that's where it really, most all of it happens is that self-awareness.
Yeah.
And just being very, very conscious of it. I definitely see all of the other impacts helping people understand that. But really, I think that the core implementation variable is self-awareness. If you can become aware and catch yourself, self-management, social awareness, and then relationships and the relationship management go through the roof. It's really the difficult side for me, I guess I should say more so, was the self-awareness. Once I got the self-awareness, the other tools kind of just came into place.
Yeah, that's true. I like one of the things they say is don't be fooled by a bad mood, but also don't be fooled by a good mood. So just because maybe your emotions are affected negatively and that something went bad doesn't mean that everything's going bad, or doesn't really mean that even that situation is bad. But also just because you're feeling good doesn't mean that what you're working on or the team you're leading or the situation itself is actually good. So you really have to learn how to evaluate what you're actually feeling and what reality is.
So that one was probably more, and when I keep on going back to self-awareness, that was one of them. For me, I've always been on the other end of the spectrum, not as much on the
always in a good mood.
Yeah. And I had to realize that sometimes that was even played in my own mind. And so the self-awareness is sometimes I would ignore things instead of lean into them, and always stay in that other area where I think that this has pulled me back and made me understand that the good side has a certain level, and you want to maintain it. You don't want to ride too high, and kind of maintain that. And so I've found myself dealing with sadness and anger and all these other areas much better, because I'm containing this high intensity and this always good.
Right.
It's like, well, maybe that isn't so good, and I can lean into it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And have some self-awareness and walk through it instead of kind of ignoring it and just going into my good.
Right. Well, I know we've kind of hit a lot of this book pretty quick, and there's so much more in there, especially with specific examples about how to get through certain situations, how to manage yourself and manage relationships. But I encourage everybody to pick this book up and read it. I mean, we can't speak highly enough about the impact this will have just on your life overall, your business, your family, all relationships, and yourself. So definitely get this book, check it out, and see you guys next time.